Welcome back to Financial Therapy. It's not just about the money. I'm personal financial planner, columnist, and financial therapist Rick Kahler. Research tells us that 90% of all financial decisions are made emotionally, not logically. For nearly 4 decades, I've been helping people make better money decisions. So what makes my financial worldview different from most financial experts? I blend the nuts and bolts of financial advice with the emotions that drive making them. Good money decisions are not just about the money. So let's get started with today's episode. Welcome back to another edition. And I want to talk about one of the disordered financial behaviors that was written about in Facilitating Financial Health in kind of this series I've been doing in these behaviors. And I'm going to promise to give you something a little different here. As I was reviewing the information that I had written previously on this and in the book that I co-authored with the Claunces, I was struck by a couple of things. And so what you're getting right now, I haven't written about anywhere. I've told you and you've experienced, if you've been listening to these podcasts, that they're unscripted and just kind of a one-way chat with me about what I'm thinking. So let's dive into this. So in the book, we talk about disordered financial behaviors and problematic financial behaviors. And as we've said, the disordered behaviors have some root in the DSM-5. That's the Diagnostic Bible of Mental Health. And then the others are behaviors that are not seen as official disorders that can cause a person a lot of financial trouble. And I want to make it really clear that while I am not a mental health professional and that I do not have a master's in mental health counseling or psychology, that I am not in the camp of those that diagnose, that feel that a person has a mental disability as such because they have some type of disorder. What I have learned in working with mental health professionals is that diagnosing someone as having a certain disorder is really rooted in the medical model of mental health. And in the medical model, there's, of course, drugs involved and kind of the thought, well, we'll treat you for your mental health abnormalities. And that is often found more with psychologists and especially psychiatrists than, say, master level mental health counselors. And I'm not making either one wrong or right. It's kind of someone's worldview. I come from a worldview, and this would be certainly within the internal family systems community, that says that there are no bad parts. There are parts that have been roped into or forced into roles, typically at young ages, that usually they really don't like, but they do this as, we might say, a coping mechanism or a way to take care of an exile that is a real vulnerable part of us. And that a person is a person. They're not a disorder, or they're not seen and identified by their disorder. They're seen as a person. And you might say, well, why do we have this diagnostic? I think you could call it old school, because insurance is totally predicated on some type of diagnosis. If you go to a counselor and you want insurance to pay for your visits or most of the visits, that counselor is going to have to make a diagnosis. Even if the counselor doesn't believe in diagnosing, they've got to make a diagnosis in order for the insurance company to pay them. So that's a little behind the scenes, and I hope that I am mostly accurate with all of that. So I just want to say that when we put these disorders in, it was more of a way of giving some credibility to the disorders than an attempt to label people. I know pretty well that certainly Ted Klontz did not fall anywhere in the area of diagnosing or labeling folks. And I don't believe that Brad does either. So I just wanted to clear that up as I go through this, because I am going to be talking about some specific instances of this, quote, disorder. So we're talking about financial dependence, being dependent on others. We defined it as reliance on others for non-work income that creates fear, anxiety of being cut off, thrown out, that brings on feelings of anger or resentment related to that income they're getting that has nothing to do with their work. And this is something, financial dependence, we found really stifles a person's motivation, passion, and drive to succeed. So we do not view financial dependence as financially healthy. Now, as I got thinking about this podcast and what it was I really wanted to say, I think somewhere within all of us is a desire to be taken care of at some level. And I want to bring out that the desire to have someone take care of me, or I'd just like to be loved, nurtured, and taken care of, is not the same as dependence, or in this case, financial dependence. And I found an article that I really liked called "We Don't Grow Out of Wanting to Be Taken Care of, and There's Nothing Wrong with That" by Katie Bingingham Smith. It was January 2nd, 2019, and it was on the web called at a site called grownandflown.com. And I thought it really laid this out pretty good. That, you have a mom, she's taking care of 3 kids, all the duties of a mom, maybe she even has a job. She's just being super mom. And at some point I wonder if anyone will ever take care of me again. And I think this is pretty common, right? This feeling, or this it's really a longing of, will someone take care of me? Now, I don't think this is meaning that I want to be dependent upon someone for everything. I think what we're talking about, and I think Katie says it well. She says, some days we would love someone to wrap us in a warm blanket, ask us what we need, tell us that they'd like to take care of us for a bit. And I would also add to that it even would be better if someone would anticipate what we need, or I don't even need to ask for it. And that's one of my things is when I was in therapy, and I've said this before, group therapy, therapists would say, so, Rick, what do you need? I just grew to hate that question. What do you need? Pete, I don't know what I need. You tell me what I need. Is there a pill you can give me so I will know what I need? And for where I came from, to ask for what you need was not an option, really. So for me, it's like, oh man, being taken care of, or for someone to actually recognize what I need, because I don't know what I need. So what is that? Okay. And I don't think we're talking about, in this case, a pathological dependence on someone. Now, it can grow into that, and we're going to talk about that. But the way Katie put this, she says, I'm talking about the need to be noticed and taken care of, which is normal and natural. And we all know healthily that waiting for somebody to know what we need is another step toward some dysfunctionality, right? Because nobody knows what we need. As healthy individuals, we've got to tell people what it is we need, because they don't have ESP, they're not mind readers. Now, some come from families where you're expected to be a mind reader. You're expected to know what the other person needs. And we know this is really pretty dysfunctional, right? So there is nothing wrong, and I loved when she said to be noticed. We all have a need to be seen. We all have a need to be heard. We all have a need to be valued and to belong. So I'm not talking about being dependent in such a way that I would like to be seen. I would like to be loved. All right? We're talking about something that really goes beyond this. So, what is that? Well, according to the DSM-5, we're talking about something that is very close to being dependent personality disorder, right? So there's 8 things that are warning flags for someone who exhibits some behaviors that would be diagnosed as dependent personality disorder. 1 has difficulty making everyday decisions without an excessive amount of advice and reassurance from others. 2, needs others to assume responsibility for most major areas of his or her life. 3, has difficulty expressing disagreement with others because of fear of loss or support or approval. 4, has difficulty initiating projects or doing things on his or her own. 5, goes to excessive lengths to obtain nurturing and support from others. 6, feels uncomfortable or helpless when alone because of exaggerated fears of being unable to care for him or herself. 7, urgently seeks another relationship as a source of care and support when a close relationship ends. And number 8, is unrealistically preoccupied with fears of being left to take care of him or herself. All right? So according to the DSM-5, if an individual has 5 of those 8 criteria, they're diagnosed to have dependent personality disorder. So we are talking about financial dependency. All right? And this is usually the what is needed for an enabler. And so an enabling is giving money, support to someone in such a way that it's harmful to them. It's that it really stifles them. And so the person on the receiving end of that is typically somebody who is or is becoming financially dependent on that income stream. And some of the research that we brought out in Facilitating Financial Health shows that in challenging economic times, as many as 60% of parents are enabling, providing financial support to adult children who are out of school. I'm not going to say every case is enabling. If you help somebody in a really severe situation for a few months and it's an acute helping of money, that is different from a chronic enabling that just goes on and on to the point of being harmful. But financial dependency is not just between parents and children. It can be in many, many forms. Think of families with, they call it generational wealth. G1 is the generation that makes the money. G2 are the kids of the generation that made the money. G3 are the grandchildren of the generation that made the money. And you can find that the money that's associated with oftentimes trusts, and in a crass term, they're often referred to as trust fund babies, rather demeaning, but that this can really, really hurt their sense of self-esteem, motivation, development. And I have seen this in many cases, that this is when I have said, I don't know how a person leaves money to the next generation in 100% healthy manner. It can be very difficult, and the more money that a person has to leave, the more difficult it is to not create a dependency with the kids. I just want to think about anything else of financial dependency. You can become financially dependent with illnesses, on government or money that's given with that. And there's even research that shows when you receive financial compensation for chronic pain, it actually increases the reported experience of the pain. And the same is true for social or occupational impairment. There's research that shows that even though well-intended, the income for the disability can actually prolong the person's recovery. So that is what we're talking about with a financial dependency, being dependent on anything that is outside of what you earn for an income. Now, I took this to another level. I thought about becoming financially dependent on financial advisors. All right? So this could be a person, you can just take those 8. A person has difficulty making everyday financial decisions without a lot of advice and reassurance. Needs others to assume responsibility for their financial aspects of their life. Has difficulty expressing financial disagreements with others. Difficulty in initiating financial actions or doing financial tasks, or going to great lengths to obtain financial reinforcement and support. Feels uncomfortable or helpless because of exaggerated fears that they're going to be unable to financially care for themselves. Urgently seeks another financial professional as a source of care and support when a current relationship with a financial professional ends. Now, I'm not talking about, my financial planner retired or my financial planner quit, and I want to go get another financial planner. I like those services. It's really helpful. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about anxiety and panic setting in because of an over-reliance on that professional. So, and the last one would be unrealistically preoccupied with the fears of being left to make a financial decision. So, now here's something that I further thought of, and I've never seen this developed anywhere. All right? I wondered, are financially dependent personalities drawn to narcissistic or histrionic advisors? Histrionic means those that are overly theatrical or melodramatic in their character or style. I never have thought about this. till about 30 minutes ago. Think about this. Financial professionals that are drawn to narcissism or histrionic or that are borderline personality disorder or antisocial, they tend to be erratic. They tend to really live in drama, right? So consumers with dependent personalities, right, around money, it would make sense that they are drawn to those that have these narcissistic histrionic disorders. They're drawn to this because and these are called in the DSM-5 cluster B disorders. Cluster B is in boy disorders. The dependent person will give these types of personalities, these financial professionals, exactly what they need. They will praise them. They will give them high regard. They will give them complete control, where the cluster B financial professional is in charge and makes all the decisions. It's a perfect match. They want to be taken care of. That's the person with the financial dependency. And the advisor, who is narcissistic, histrionic, who absolutely wants to be in charge and make the decisions. Now you see this. You see it all the time. You see it with, this is a form of advising. Not to say that every financial planner or investment advisor who is in charge and makes the decisions is a cluster B personality. But I have long gone around for a couple decades teaching financial professionals that they don't have the answers for their clients, and they need to drop their agenda and help the client figure out what is right for them, that they can give information, but don't make decisions. And even long before I even understood this dynamic, the type of client that would give me the heebie-jeebies, professional word, was that said, Rick, whatever you say, that's what I'm going to do. And there is just something in me that just curled up and gagged, like, oh my God. And I think from a business owner standpoint, that was like, wow, this is a big liability. Because when a person gives all their power away to a professional to make all the decisions, this can come back to bite that professional big time. So this is something that's just never made sense to me. And part of healthily helping a person around money issues is to empower them, to get them to the place that they can make decisions. Because the more decisions that the consumer is okay with making, and the more that the financial consumer understands, the more they can join into partnership with their financial professionals, as opposed as to a pedestal relationship, right? So I don't think what I'm talking about here is often seen in financial therapy or with therapists so much. I mean, I'm sure it's out there. But you can definitely get this with other financial professionals, whether they be accountants, attorneys, financial planners. And it's something to really be on the lookout for, right? So if you've kind of recognized yourself in this, then that's a good thing. Because, how do you know how much trust is enough trust, right? I think of President Ronald Reagan. It said, trust but verify. And so, on one hand, I'm saying, yeah, you got to find financial professionals you can trust, that have your back, that don't have conflicts of interest. And on the other hand, you need to be the captain of your ship. You need to take responsibility for yourself. You need to be in a position where you don't give all the decision-making power away to a professional. And I think the balance is a partnership. I once had, it was actually a financial therapy client, say, I really get the feeling in working with you that you're kind of right in this with me. And what I took from that is I certainly was not giving advice or anything like that. And I probably had talked about times in my life where I was right where this person was, and that I'm still figuring things out myself. And that is not the person that says I have all the answers, that I am the guru, right? I think a financial guru is a huge sign of, especially if they're an advisor, someone with narcissistic tendencies or histrionic or borderline or, these other disorders. So that's what was on my mind today. And I'm probably going to write something on that because I've really never seen anything addressed on this in the area of the dependent financial consumer and the narcissistic advisor. So thanks for joining me. Hope this was insightful for you. It was for me. So take care, and I will chat with you next week. Thanks for joining me, Rick Kahler, for another episode of Financial Therapy. It's not just about the money. This is where I combine the nuts and bolts of financial advice with the emotions that drive making them. Remember, every financial behavior, whether it appears illogical to you or others, makes perfect sense when we understand the underlying beliefs, feelings, and thoughts. Sign up for my weekly blog at financialawakenings.com. I hope you'll join me again for our next episode.